Hi everyone, welcome to the first meeting in 2025 to the SIG Network Policy API Working Group Subproject meeting. It's the Jan 14th, 2025. Warm welcome to everyone once again. Let's all be kind to each other and follow the Kubernetes Code of Conduct. And let's also give space for everybody to voice out their ideas and opinions. And let's have a fun meeting today. I see more folks are joining. Hey, Boe. Hey, Paul. Happy New Year
Hey,
to
how are you doing?
everyone. Doing good. We were just getting started. I think we don't have that many items on the agenda. So if anybody wants to add more items, please feel free to do so. If not, over to Nadia and or Sean to talk about tenancy, because I know I added the title, but I think it came from our previous meeting where we said, let's start the new year with tenancy. And also on our Slack threads, we know that one of the things blocking us towards going to beta is to try to at least nail this API. And it's pretty useful for the use cases and end users. So Nadia or Sean?
Yeah, I think I can try to just summarize at least the status from my point of view for now. I think we have not figured out a good enough solution for tenancy that actually works and is pretty, and that is a part of the problem. There is, you can find.
Can I just preempt you because my topic is like about scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to talk about tenancy, I just want to make sure that. Sorry, I apologize for preempting. So I'm trying to schedule a review like across the SIG with Tim Hawken and all those folks. It seems, and then I see this item below that a bunch of folks are going to be out on the 28th. Is the 29th from 8:30 to 9:30 Pacific time work?
I'm actually out that whole week, unfortunately, like the week of
Plus
27th.
Okay. Okay, maybe we can take this offline, but it would be good if people send me their availability then. I could try to do an intersection. All right,
yeah, I
that's
think
all.
we can do. We can use calendars.
Send me your availability. This is talking about everyone in this call, so we can kind of do some scheduling. I just wanted to get that out of the way because it seems like tenancy discussion might be fairly long.
Yeah, let's see. I mean, I actually hope maybe that we will not go into too many details. That's kind of what I wanted to say. That also related to the review of the API. One thing I think we've touched on in some random conversation with Tim during KubeCon last time is that we wanted to get back to some of the discussions or our decisions during this beta review, including, at least Tim mentioned that, it wasn't me, promise, trying to reason once again about having separate CRDs for baseline ad network policy and ad network policy while we still have the chance, or if we do need a priority for baseline network policy, or if it needs to be singleton, because singleton kind of doesn't smell nice as an API in general. So some of these topics were mentioned that could, if we decide to do something differently, that could lead to some prettier API designs for tenancy. So that's why I'm thinking maybe we should have this API discussion first, see if we are going to change anything, and maybe after that get back to tenancy, hoping that maybe something will become easier.
I actually have some notes. I went through the API as well. Just like, let's just say it's like a fresh set of very uninformed eyes on it. And I did again. I also had a question on baseline because it's a little strange.
Yes.
So, but I don't want to preempt your tenancy discussion.
No, but that's actually from me. That's the whole kind of suggestion. I think we more or less agreed from all the previous meetings that there is no one good option for now that we all like and think is a good idea. So maybe if we manage to schedule this beta review, which will give us some potential changes, I would say we should do that first and then get back to tenancy after that. Maybe it will just solve our problems.
Okay. what specifically was the intersection of tenancy and baseline, for example? Is it
Um,
if you have tenancy and baseline, they're like kind of incompatible?
no, not really. It was mostly, it should be somewhere in our agenda, many meetings before, and it's also captured in the PR, just in case you want to get back to that. But TLDR is tenancy just needs a priority to find its place across all the ANPs that we have. And with
I
the
see.
ANP itself, it's fine, but BNP doesn't have a priority. It's a singleton, which means if you have a tenancy, you can either have a tenancy baseline at Metroc policy or just a regular baseline at Metroc policy. And you cannot have them at the same time because it's a singleton. So that was one of the problems.
Although that assumes like, what's the meaning of, okay, I'm getting quite deep into it. Like, what's the meaning of tenancy? Because is tenancy like everything tenancy first and then everything has to fit inside tenancy, or is tenancy like, here's a baseline and then you can put your stuff on top?
Yeah, I mean, we have multiple options, right, of what tenancy
Okay.
actually even could mean. Also, you can find that in the current PR.
Okay.
Yeah, there's multiple use cases that we were trying to cover, I think,
Yeah. The most flexible one, considering we don't have actually too many tenancy use cases for now, and we didn't want to limit the API too much, the most flexible one was just considering reusing, in a way, current priority field that we have for ANP to put tenancy at any given priority, so that we don't have to say, oh, tenancy is always the highest or like always the lowest priority and there is nothing in between. So
yeah, I think one of the interesting things around the priority system, which I was thinking through, is like the priority system could be used to compose policies together, but it could also be used like, I have individual independent things. Like this is my policy for reason X and this is my policy for reason Y. Like, are we saying that tenancy would be a single policy in that priority thing, or like it's like a group of policies? Does that make sense? Like, because some of the way the priorities stack on top of each other, it's useful for creating more complicated combinations of stuff. Or like the use cases, like I have like 3 distinct uses, like use 1, use 2, use 3, and then use 1 is priority 0, use 2 is priority 10, and you get what I'm saying.
So for both tenancy and baseline admin network policy, the idea is that you just have this one generalized way that the cluster is supposed to work by default in the absence of other admin network policies. And so theoretically, you can that's why you only need one baseline admin network policy, because it's just one concept of what the baseline in the cluster is. The problem is that when you add in tenancy, it's not neither the existing tenancy proposals nor the baseline admin network policy can completely specify what you want the single concept of networking in the cluster to be. And so you have to figure out how they work together, or we need to get rid of, well, or we need to figure out a better way to represent this idea in the system, combining them together or whatever.
I see.
Right, in the priority conversation, it's also captured in the PR, but the point was that at some point we figured out that tenancy may need to have a given set of rules that will be higher priority than that will kind of override the tenancy rules in a way, and that you may want to have lower priority rules as well, which is why it's hard to give tenancy a given place in this priority structure. So
in terms of tenancy though, like it's still that one administrative person who's in charge of everything, right? Because it's like,
yeah.
we don't see like different people kind of trying to generate different configs. It's just like this one, not individual, but like organization.
Hopefully not, right? I mean, it's in the same set of rules as admin network policy and baseline admin network policy, so kind of targeted for admins. As far as I know, we don't expect different people to be managing these APIs in any way.
But like,
yeah, I think that's
part of why we
ahead.
didn't like same labels, not same labels, is because that API allowed people to create lots of different tenancy-like rules within the cluster, and we thought that was too complicated. So yeah, tenancy is a singleton. You know, regardless of how it's specified, the idea is that it's a singleton. You have one system of tenancy in your cluster, which is provided by the admin or the like cluster infrastructure provider or whatever.
Got it.
I think I still quite like the same, not same labels idea. I mean, there's a trade-off between having something that's separate and kind of precisely defined like that, and having something that's kind of uniform and part of the other policies. And I know that having a singleton opens up some different implementation possibilities for some of the data planes as well. So there's another. It's a complicated question.
Well,
Yeah,
one other
also-
thing that I had a question on is like, are we thinking of tenancy as something that if you had a fancy controller could be implemented using the rest of the stuff like ANP, or is it something that must be built in to the same layer and due to, you know, some of the way it operates?
Yeah, if it's in the same priority range in a way, then it has to be implemented.
But is
by the
that
same
like,
thing.
let's say we made some clever modifications to the underlying thing, like could it be layered like that, or is it just inherent that it has to kind of get built at the same time into the same thing?
Any tenancy specification could be turned into multiple admin network policies. The trick being that you need to immediately create new admin network policies as new namespaces are created.
I see. So there's some lifecycle stuff. But on a conceptual level, like they could be layered.
The actual policy behavior, there's nothing you can do with tenancy that you couldn't do with admin network policies. The thing that makes it different is that it automatically applies to new namespaces. Yeah.
I see. It's like a meta label selector or something.
Yeah, dynamic label selector in a way.
It's like a label selector that then activates a label selector.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
any policy could apply to namespaces that don't exist yet, right? Like if you have namespace selector equals app equals foo, and somebody creates a new namespace with that label, the network policy automatically starts applying to it. The thing with the tenancy policies is that you essentially have to create a family of policies for each new value of the label being used to break tenants up into groups. And so you can't pre-create all of the admin network policies that a given tenancy policy would need. Like you have to just watch as namespaces are created and then create new admin network. You know, if somebody creates a new namespace with user equals Bowie, then you have to create an admin network policy that says all namespaces with user equals Bowie can talk to each other.
I see.
Whereas with the tenancy thing, you don't, like, you just have the tenancy thing that says all namespaces with the same user label can talk to each other.
It's like a higher order function.
Yeah.
It's like a functor.
Well, if you think of it in terms of being something that creates admin network policies, then it is like that. But you can also just think of it as being a primitive.
Right.
And an advantage of thinking of it as a primitive is you don't need to actually go away and create all those policies. So if you have 10,000 namespaces, you don't end up with 10,000 or 20,000 policies in your cluster that then have to be indexed and processed. You just there's a lot of implementation freedom to say, oh, on this particular node, I have these namespaces active, so I only need to worry about those. Or I think in OVN, you had the tenant ID in a register, and it's an even more efficient approach. So
I see.
a lot of freedom in having it not just be a template process.
Okay, I think thank you for that. For huming me on educating, this makes more sense why we need it. Okay. I think like the one disadvantage is like if someone had to check how things were working, it probably is a little bit more complicated because you have something that represents a group of stuff that then is sort of virtual, like, but that's all I mean, debugging network policy has been like been difficult, generally speaking.
Yeah, I mean, it's not much different from trying to figure out which pod selector applies to actually which pods and then which connections are allowed. So it's, yeah, more or less on the same level.
Yeah, I do think it's very valuable though. I think we all do it. It's a feature request that we get pretty often to offer some way to do this. Users tend to come to us and ask for some way to do same not same labels, like that's the implementation idea that they tend to come with. Obviously that doesn't necessarily mean it's the right option just because users sort of think of it in those terms, but we've had that request several times and even people offering to try to implement it in Calico.
One question is like, where does it sit in the admin mandating stuff priority? Like, do we see users being able to override, or is this just the priority discussion in general? Like, am I just digging into that one?
Yeah, mostly priority discussion, same as any admin network policy that has its own priority. I mean, it's kind of not expected to be overridable if you put it on admin network policy layer, and like it is overridable if it's baseline admin network policy. With tenancy, it's kind of the same, at least for now, as we are thinking about it.
Okay. Okay,
yeah,
so okay, sorry.
Just I wanted to summarize on that feedback from Sean that actually the old version of same not same label model was very flexible, but it allows many incorrect and confusing configurations as an API. So basically what we want to do is to have a similar level of flexibility, or at least like a reasonable level of flexibility, but allowing less strange and confusing options by the API.
So I think the priority part is also covered in the NPEP, right? So we could read more on that. Any other questions, Chloe, or anything else, Nadia, you want to highlight? Like, what is the action item? I guess it's for reviews, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to update the PR after every set of reviews I get. So hopefully it should cover lots of details for now. If anyone has any more questions or suggestions, maybe we will find that perfect option even right now. Please feel free to comment. I'll reply in that. And if we actually get to have this beta discussion sometime soon, that could be also a good point, like to get back to the tenancy discussion after that, if there are no more great ideas in between.
Yeah, sounds good. So maybe we can come back to tenancy, but in general, there is two things, right? One is the review towards beta. There was an API review PR, which was opened on the repo by Andrew, which I know is stale, but I can try to pull up another PR so that it makes it easier to run through with Tim. And I know there was one item that was remaining, which is to remove this extended, all this stuff from the naming so that it's less confusing. But is a PR review what you have in mind, Kowe, just to walk through what are what we wanted from Tim initially was to walk through all the changes that we have done since the time Tim approved the initial ANPPR, because I think he approved it, to today, right? So in the past 2-3 years, whatever changes we did. So a diff of the API review is what we had in place. But maybe we are slightly tilting towards a whole API review at this stage, or am I confused?
Yeah, I think that is what I think makes sense, because there might be some discussions, for example, should Tennessee be included or not? Should we have broader changes before it just completely solidifies in beta? So probably to go through that model just to double check, and then I think that would be good. That's why also I was asking for quite a long slot, like 2 hours basically. Even the Delta changes might require 2 hours, but it seems like we should just have like a just because it's been a while, so we should just go through the whole thing just to make sure.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and I'm okay with that also. What is the other thing that concerns me, or maybe it's not concerning, but more of a broader question? Are we okay to pull in Tim with everything we have today, for thinking that that is what we need for beta, or things like tenancy, right? I think we agreed we want this as part of beta, or did we ever agree? I don't know. Are there things missing before we need to start the review process, or do we think that let's just start with reviewing whatever we have today and then come back to some of these things? Like, you see my point? Like, if there's change.
So I think
then-
from what I'm hearing in this discussion is like, if there's anything that needs to be future proofed. So in the ideal case, like you could stage it so like there's the stuff that we 100% know we need and we're happy to ship it. And then we already know that tenancy is something that the community wants and is coming, and it's like an easy add-on to what we're going to ship today for beta. Obviously that's ideal. It's just like, then it's like the choice is not, you don't need to choose, right? You could just kind of be like, let's focus on this and let's focus on this. If it could get to that kind of general point, then that would be useful. If we find that the two are like inextricably linked, and if we make some decision now will like basically impact everything downstream, then we might have to discuss it. But the review is going to be probably due to people's availability. One of the ideas was to try to like squeeze it in this week, but it seems like it's just not possible. So probably like 2 weeks, or hopefully not longer. But I wouldn't mind even just having this discussion on Slack in like the GitHub discussions, to just try to hash it out as much as possible to get it to that stage.
Yeah, I'm all for making it easier, right? Like if
Exactly.
we need. Yeah, maybe we can start with an initial meeting, at least then it's easier for walking Tim through the API. And then maybe if required, we can have follow-up Slack discussions.
Yeah, and I think like I'm happy to meet as well, just one-off or just on Slack, to just discuss kind of like what we think of these various things.
Yeah. What week were you aiming for, Bove? I'm out. I think Nadia and I are out the week of 27. You said Tim is out the week of 20. And this
Yeah.
week is not possible, right? There's only 2 more days left. That would make it
Yes,
the
for
week
you,
of.
I have 3 more days. Oh, you guys are off on Friday as well.
Yeah. I mean, I could
Well-
make it tomorrow or Thursday. One off late evening is fine, like Nadia was saying.
Okay,
If-
yeah, I think like just send me your availability, and I'll try to get as many meetings. Like maybe it's going to be too hard for like everyone to show up, but we'll have a everyone meeting for sure.
Yeah,
But it might
That's a
be
good
really
idea.
hard to schedule, so maybe
yeah,
like a
just
couple
go for
one-offs
it,
would be
and
fine.
yeah, exactly. You can just go for it and schedule some, and then we can see how to sync up with the others who missed the meeting.
Yeah, so if folks just ping me on Slack, or I guess you could just directly email me.
I'll just put it here on the sheets, on the doc.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure you can see our free busy time in Google Calendar, even cross
really?
organizationally. Yeah, it
You need to
Seems
set a
to work.
special option to actually allow that. But yeah, there is like some make it public button somewhere.
That's frightening.
No, people only see like still busy free time. It doesn't say all the details about every meeting.
I
Oh,
think
so
like
wait, the busy-
organizationally, I like can't do that.
No, I
Like,
mean,
there's some org struct
Nadia
policy.
is. Yeah, that scares me too. But Nadia, do you think that you have to make it public for Bove to even see whether it's busy or free? I mean, or I think making it public will only show your
Yeah, I
details
thought
of the
that
meetings, right?
that's what means making it public, like just showing free busy time, and then otherwise you just will not see anything on my calendar at all.
Oh,
So I don't think it's by default you can see the busy times. That's what I'm saying. But maybe that was just my settings. So I did click this button a long time ago.
okay. Bove, do you want to try it out? Do you want to just paste Dan's email and see if you're able to see his calendar? That might
Okay,
be
let
easier.
me just give it a shot.
And if not, we can Slack you, email you, or put the times on the sheet or do something to tell you our free time. And Nadia's is already public.
Hopefully.
Okay, I think I
Maybe
can see it.
You can see Dan's because he doesn't have that option on.
No, I do.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I didn't realize that I had enabled it, but yes, I can confirm that I cannot see Bowie's calendar. So
Yeah,
But-
okay. Yeah, I can, Dan, I can see your calendar. Okay.
Okay, yeah, then just send an invite that is free for Nadia and Dan, right? And just add me to it. I'm pretty sure I can make that slot empty, no matter what current conflict it's in. Because if you have Nadia's calendar, she's in my team, so most of it will be the same. It shouldn't be then harder.
Yeah, Surya, I don't think I can see yours.
Yeah, that's fine. Just put a
Okay.
slot which is free for both Dan and Nadia, and I'll make sure I can join. So just invite me, and then I can accept.
All right, sorry, we're talking amongst ourselves. Anyone else on the call is, feel free
Yeah.
to drop your contact as well.
Sean, do you want, or I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but anybody else wants to join us for API review?
Sure, I've got availability over the next few days. Tend to have a lot of late meetings in the evenings already. So,
Okay, yeah, I can see Nadia's. Okay, I'll just coordinate on Slack, so don't worry about it too much. I'll reach out to everyone.
Awesome, thanks, Bove. Then do we want to go back to the one small thing before we go back to tenancy? Nadia and I are on PTO on 28th. Dan, can you volunteer to run the meeting that week if there are any items on the agenda? Or we could also cancel, but up to, sorry to put you on spot, Dan.
yeah, no, I can run it if there is stuff.
Thank you so much. And with that, back to tenancy. I think we wanted to go back to tenancy. Or talk about if we still need to keep EA and PS singleton. What was it? Did we want to go back to tenancy? Did I misunderstand, Nadia?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I kind of said everything I wanted about that. Yeah, if there are more questions, we can discuss them. If not, that's also fine. And we can also talk in the pull request itself if anyone wants to read it first or something.
Yeah, I have linked the PR on the doc here. If folks are interested, please take a look. And Paul, I see you've mentioned on the chat that this is also important to your customers. They're trying to get these APIs to GA. Thank you. And yeah, if you're interested or have any questions, definitely let us know.
Yep. Thanks for letting me listen in. If there's something we can help with, let us know. We're still kind of coming up to speed a little bit.
Yeah, how good. Take your time.
Yeah, and if
Anything
you have any
else?
tenancy use cases, please open that link and just tell me what that is.
Will do.
Oh, anything else anybody else wants to bring up? Okay, if not, we will look forward to the Slack ping from Goe and we can meet for the API review meeting whenever it's being held. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Have a great rest
Oh,
of your
sorry,
day.
did we, on your
Oh,
last
yeah.
agenda item, did we resolve that? Oh, Dan will run it, okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. Yes. We even put his name on the date so that now he.
Oh, I thought that was just like a typo.
Oh, yeah. So actually, yeah, Nadia and I started putting letters for who runs the meeting because I got confused or something.
Okay,
Just
north,
not
south.
to put each other. Yeah. Yeah. Or that.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you all. Thank you all for joining. See you soon. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you.
Oops.